right. Well, hello, Discovery Mountain listeners. My name is Amanda Ruf, and I play Olivia Olson on Discovery Mountain. I also happen to be the lead copy editor here at the Voice of Prophecy, which is the ministry that produces Discovery Mountain. And today we have a treat. We are talking to Chris Albrecht, who is a real life cuber, a just an absolute whiz at the Rubik's Cube. I know if you've been listening to season 32, Scrambled Faith, right now, which is just finishing up right now, it's all about how a cube puzzle craze starts in Discovery Mountain when Keziah gets her hands on a Rubik's Cube, and it just kind of snowballs from there. And I know I've enjoyed kind of dabbling or learning some things about the world of speed cubing. And so I was delighted when Chris agreed to come do an interview with us and kind of give us a taste of what that world is like. So thank you so much for joining us, Chris.
Yep, thank you for having me, Amanda. Really happy to be here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. All right, so first question, just could you share how and kind of when you first got into cubing? Was it a childhood thing? Was it later? Did your friends get into it as well? Just kind of share the origin story.
Yeah, it was a childhood thing. I don't remember exactly which year, somewhere in the 2002 to 2004 range, but I was around 14. My brother worked at summer camp, and my family went to visit him. And so I thought it would be cool to get him a gift. So I bought him a Rubik's Cube. We traveled to summer camp where he was working. He took a look at it and he said, "Chris, I think you would enjoy this more than I would." So I proceeded to scramble it on the way home and realized that I was never going to be able to solve this thing. And so it stuck on a shelf for a little bit after that. A friend of ours that was attending the local university saw that a few months later and said, "Hey, we can learn to solve that thing." So we hopped on the internet and found some solution guides and got to work. And before long, I could solve it in a minute or two. And from there, I've never lost interest.
That's I love that story. That is just a classic. Yeah, so your friend kind of introduced you, helped
Yeah, and then I
helped.
took off from there and left him way behind. So,
Oh yeah, as one does.
yeah.
Were you able to persuade other friends to get into the Rubik's Cube?
Yeah, not to the same degree of passion as I've been into it. Over the years, I have uh, been able to, I guess, persuade a handful of friends of mine to learn how to solve the Rubik's Cube. Usually they're content just to learn how to solve it and they're not going for speed necessarily, but it is a really cool accomplishment to be able to say that you know how to solve the Rubik's Cube and whatever level one is interested to go, I totally support that. I have a deal with my friends now that if they learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube, I will give them one. And a couple of them have taken me up on it. But for the most part, they just learn how to solve it and they're content with that. And then I've gone for speed myself. So,
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, actually, when Chris and I first met, back in 2018, I guess, uh, it's such a fantastic party trick. Like, I had no idea that I was sitting next to this cube master, and you whip out this cube and just start and just start solving it at the speed of light, and it's just amazing. For me myself, I think I'm more content to watch and marvel at other people doing it. But that is a cool ongoing offer you have with your friends about if they can
right.
solve
And
the
I would
Rubik's
say
cube.
that um, almost everyone is capable of learning to solve a Rubik's cube. I know some people think, "Oh, my brain doesn't work that way," or "I know it might take a lot of math," which is not true. But I think even the artistic types can learn how to solve a Rubik's cube. If you can follow directions, then you can learn how to solve a Rubik's cube.
Honestly, after watching videos and after this, I'm feeling inspired. I think I might go out and get one myself,
Great.
and just give it a go. No promises on the speed there, but but
Well, if
we'll
you've got
see.
any questions, I'm happy to help. So,
There you go. I got a great resource already.
uh,
All right, so you have been involved with some competitions. Could you share about your experience with cubing competitions and what you like about them, what's challenging, what's rewarding, and what it's like to go to some of these competitions?
yeah. So competitions are a whole lot of fun. And it's really cool to attend an event where there may be 100 or more other people there solving Rubik's Cubes pretty much all at the same time. And you walk into a big auditorium and you just hear click, 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 turn, 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 turn from the room. So it's it's an interesting experience to walk in for the first time. But yeah, I got to attend my first competition in 2022. I've attended, I think, since then a total of 5 competitions here in the state of Arizona, which have all been really great experiences. But the first one that I went to in Tucson in 2022 was special, not just because it was my first competition, which in itself was a really cool experience, but one of the world's best cubers was there at that particular event. His name is Max Park. There is a
I've heard
Netflix
of him.
documentary.
That's how you know
Yeah,
he's big. If I've heard of him.
there's a Netflix documentary about him called The Speedcubers, which is
Oh.
fantastic. It's about 45 minutes, and the only flaw I find in that documentary is it's too short. I feel like it could easily be an hour and a half and just as engaging. But yeah, he was there solving the Rubik's cube in 5 to 6 seconds, and just seeing that in person was really amazing experience. And then since then, I was able to get involved in actually helping organize a couple of competitions. So I have a name card here from one of my competitions. This was 2023. I think this was the first one that I helped organize here in Glendale, Arizona.
Oh, cool.
And so that was really cool to help uh, monitor registrations that came in, help with scorecards, scrambling behind the scenes, judging, all of that. So,
Wow, that does sound like a very exciting experience. Is there kind of just an atmosphere of, well, I don't know. How would you describe the cubing community?
yeah, it's everyone is very supportive. I think that's one of the things that's really positive about speed cubing in general is everyone is willing to help each other, cheer each other on, share helpful hints if possible. I haven't found anyone that was so competitive to the point that they wouldn't say, "Hey, this is what I do in this situation," or "This is what I do in this
Right.
situation." And then most everyone I know is not going for world records. We're really just trying to kind of like if you're running a 5K or a marathon, you're just trying to match your best or surpass your own personal best. That's a lot of what speed cubing competitions are like. Most people are there just to have a good time and maybe try and set a personal record.
Well, that's great. It sounds like a real, yeah, positive community, uplifting community where people are just
Mhm.
willing to help each other out and maybe some healthy competition, you would call it.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So, of the 5 competitions you've been a part of, would you say was it the Tucson one that was probably the most memorable, or was it another one that stood out?
I think it's a tie. That was most memorable, I think, just because it was my first one.
Mm-hmm.
But perhaps my favorite ones were the ones that I've been able to help organize here in the Glendale, Arizona area. It's not only fun to compete, but I think being able to contribute and help organize there's a special feeling to that as well. And then one of those competitions, I don't remember off the top of my head which, but I set what still stands as my personal record times. So I think my for the normal 3x3 cube, which is my favorite out of all the different types of puzzles, my single fastest time in a competition is 13.49 seconds. And then
Woo!
they also have an average over a total of 5 solves where they remove the fastest and worst times and average your middle three. Did that 15.14 seconds as my best average so far.
Wow. Well, that is pretty lightning fast. Not that far beyond. Let's see. Wasn't the world record just broken recently? It was like
It was.
3.08,
Yes. So the current world
was it?
record is uh, for average time is 4.05 seconds, and then the single solve is 3.08 seconds. So what's amazing
Wow.
is although I am generally fast when it comes to solving Rubik's cube, in the world of speed cubing, I'm moderately fast. I'm actually not super fast. And I've never made a final round of a competition before. There's usually many solvers faster than me.
Would you say something I noticed when watching videos of these competitions is that just a lot of them are so young. Kind of the age of our
Right.
listeners, actually, 10, 11 year olds. Did you notice that at the ones you've been to as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think most of maybe 80% of competitors at these competitions are probably youth or kids. So, which is great. I think it's a fantastic hobby to get involved in and relatively inexpensive as far as hobbies go, and totally supportive of that as a choice for kids to do. It's really great activity.
That's true. And it's so, I guess, heartwarming, wholesome to see kids get into that. And I loved, the storyline of this latest season, seeing even kids of the digital age, which there's so many distractions now, still getting into the Rubik's cube, and kind of a revival of, or a little in the Discovery Mountain storyline, a mini revival of kind of the 1980s craze. One of the characters
Right.
pulls out his old instruction manual from the 1980s and starts coaching some of the
Right.
kids. So it's just really really cool to see that.
Yeah,
And I
I
think
think
the internet, or go ahead.
those revivals have come in waves. Of it. Like you said, the initial crave was around 1980, give or take a few years, because I think it was invented in the 70s and took off from there. And it's become the world's best selling puzzle since then. But the first world championship was held in 1983. And then it was 20 years later that the next world championship was held in 2003. And that's the wave of revival that I came in to the idea of speed cubing and that hobby. But I think maybe since 2020, maybe the Netflix documentary has played a place in that. Max Park and some of the other cubers, that their videos on the internet have gone viral. I think that's played another role in a sort of a recent surge to even more popularity of the Rubik's cube.
Right. That was going to be my point. Is, well, even in the early days of the internet, you had kind of early online communities sharing tips and
Right.
algorithms. But especially these days, with video and going viral, just watching some of these guys solve, and not just the regular 3x3, but all kinds of cubes, and 21 by 21 huge Rubik's cubes.
Yeah,
It just really, yeah.
the biggest one I've got is only, quote unquote, only 7 by 7. So this takes me about 15 minutes to solve. I think the biggest that I would
Oh,
be
look at
willing
that.
to try would be a 13 by 13. And then beyond that, I'm more than willing to just watch a video of somebody else try to solve them. So,
Right, right. I think the one I was watching, it took him about just under 6 hours to solve the 21 by 21. I'm like, well, good for them. I'll watch
yeah,
a time lapse video of that, but
yeah,
yeah.
I wouldn't say it's overly complicated for somebody who's used to solving a Rubik's Cube, especially once you know how to solve a 4 by 4 or 5 by 5. But it is extremely tedious to then have to deal with that many rows and layers on a cube.
Right. I think the guy's hands was just very sore afterwards. He's like, I'm gonna have to lay down.
And then it's hard to turn. You're gripping it like this, and you're like, okay, turn this layer, turn this layer.
Wrestling with
It's
it.
fun to watch.
Oh, well, yeah, it's cool that you've gotten to also organize some competitions and kind of, yeah, take on even kind of a mentoring role of encouraging the hobby and skill in others.
Mhm.
My sister was talking about how you were involved in hosting a competition at a church. Could you share about some of that and how that kind of functioned as maybe a bit of an outreach event?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just a little bit behind the scenes when it comes to organizing. Um, some of the things that are needed to run a competition. The venue is a very crucial part of that. And then you have equipment. So, whoever's organizing has to have a whole bunch of timers. Um, when they use the space, then they need to set up all the tables. Um,
Oh,
and it's really hard to find a space that is large enough to hold 100 competitors and their families.
Right.
but also might be affordable enough to where you can pay for the space, but not have to charge the competitors a very high entrance fee. I know the local competitions that we've had in Arizona, we might charge $30, give or take, to enter the competitions, which for a single day competition is, I think, very affordable. But behind that, there's event costs that go into renting a space. Being connected to a church community, one of our churches here in the greater Phoenix area, Glendale, they have a church school right across the parking lot from their church. And that has a really large gym that ended
Oh,
up
nice.
being a perfect place to hold a Rubik's Cube competition. And very often, gyms or maybe large rooms at convention centers tend to be typical locations for these types of events. And so it was really neat connecting one area of my life, which is church and faith, to another area of my life, which is speed cubing and the friends that I have there. Um, and so, first of all, it was a good location for us to have an event. And everyone that I knew on the speed cubing side was very grateful to have a very nice venue, a nice gym to have the competition at a affordable price. And I think those that were attending also found the space to be very reasonable for the event. And then on the church side of things, I think having an event that's open to the community is a very positive thing. Where not only just in terms of um, I guess getting our name out there and being known, but also being willing to reach out and connect with the community. Have an event where community can come and whether just by the name only, or maybe they ask questions, they can learn more about our faith as well.
That's true. Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. I think it aligns very well with some of the things Pathfinders get into. When Discovery
Mhm.
Mountain has a Pathfinder club, but any kind of Scouts club looking for positive hobbies for kids and the youth, and connecting with also an existing community, because even if you think, oh, my town's not that big, I guarantee there are Rubik's cubes enthusiasts in your town who would like
Right.
that sort of thing. So that's
Yeah.
great that you were able to find that kind of opportunity to open up the space. And like you said, it's a church, so they're not gonna be charging through the nose probably for something like that. So
Yeah. But yeah,
yeah.
interestingly enough, it was a good conversation starter. One of the moms of the kids that was competing for the first time came over and said, "Oh, I grew up in this denomination." So we held it at a Seventh Day Adventist church school. She came over and said that was her background, and that she hadn't been attending church regularly in the recent couple of years. But it opened up an opportunity for us to have a spiritual conversation and give her an invite to return to church when she was interested to do so. So that was a really cool opportunity. I thought that wouldn't have happened if this was at another location.
Right. That's such a good point. It's a good icebreaker, kind of a
Mhm.
what you call, I guess, a non-threatening environment. People who may not be like, oh, church spaces may make them a little uncomfortable, but I think that sort of
Mhm.
environment is very welcoming, just kind of open to all, and it's just kind of a great space to, yeah, engage with your community. Um,
Right.
so yeah, if any parents or teachers or ministry leaders watching this are thinking of ideas for outreach events, have you thought about QB competitions? That's one option. Right.
I know the
So,
Cuban community would be very appreciative to have opportunity for good spaces for sure.
right, right. So, let's talk about more about your personal methods of solving. So I know you mentioned finding methods online, but just overall, where have you found some of your most reliable methods for cubing?
Certainly the internet has been my go-to. And When I first got into speed cubing, there was this layer by layer method that was becoming known as the fastest speed cubing method at the time, and that was called the Friedrich method, which in 20 years, that name has been largely forgotten, and it's been known as CFOP, which stands for uh, corners, then the first two layers, and then the last layer you orient it, and then you permute it. So I got some cubes to show what that looks like. So usually the
Oh,
first
perfect.
step of what I do based off of that is trying to get a white plus on the first layer. And then from there, solving the bottom two layers. So that's a solved cube. I meant to show this one right here. So you solve the bottom two layers, but the top layer is still a little bit scrambled. Then from there, you get all yellow on the final layer. And then from there, you turn it into a solved cube. So um, it maybe takes more steps than that, but in summary, it's known as that layer by layer or CFOP method. And there's been some YouTube videos I've found really helpful over the years. There was a channel by the name of Bad Mephisto that was really popular when I was getting into speed cubing. That has long been surpassed. I think probably the one that's most popular and what I would recommend to anyone wanting to learn today is a channel by the name of JPerm. The instructional videos on that, from beginner method to learning to solve it for the first time to as fast as you want to go. He's got great videos for every step along that process. That's what I would recommend. There are different methods for solving the Rubik's Cube, but that is by far and the most common and typically understood as the most fastest method for solving the Rubik's Cube.
All right. Well, and we can drop a link to one of those tutorial videos in our description, as well as actually a fantastic video of Chris himself, not only solving a Rubik's Cube fast, but doing it one-handed and playing the trumpet at the same time, because Chris is also a musician. He plays the trumpet quite well. So we'll include the link to that video as well. But just before we go, I wanted to, you said you had a collection of cubes there. I was wondering if you could show us some of the maybe standard and then maybe some of the more unusual cubes that you own.
Yeah, absolutely happy to do that. So, of course, the 3x3, so 3 layers across, 3 layers down, is the original Rubik's Cube. And my favorite one, it's the one I enjoy doing the most. But you can have competitions that go as small as 2x2, and then you can add a layer. So here's 4, here's 5, here's 6. I did a cube with a smiley face pattern on that you can see. And then I showed it earlier, your 7x7. So all of those appear in competitions. Usually every competition will have a 3x3 competition, and then they'll mix in some of the other sizes of puzzles. But there's also other categories of puzzles that don't follow the traditional cube shape of a puzzle. So for example, this puzzle here is called a skewb, where it actually turns diagonally as opposed to horizontally and vertically. So that's a fun puzzle to solve. Here is a pyraminx, which is a 4-sided puzzle. Obviously, it takes the name from pyramid. If you want to go more sides, you can do the megaminx, which is a 12-sided puzzle. I know one of our local organizers is really strong at this and can do this in about 45 seconds or so. So those are some of the fun types of puzzles I have. There's also been some of our competitions where we have, it's not even a twisty puzzle, but for some reason they included it at the competitions. This is called a clock, which is fun as well. And then there's what are considered non-official puzzles. They're not included in the competitions, but they're available and they're pretty fun to use. So this puzzle here is called I think it's called actually forgetting the name, ghost cube, block cube, but it functions just like a normal 3x3 cube, but you can tell the layers are different sizes. So as you turn it, it actually, what's referred to as shape shifting, becomes not cube shape anymore. So seeing as every piece has the same color on it, you learn to solve it by shape rather than by color. So that's a fun one to do. And then the most difficult puzzle that I have that I still have not yet been able to solve is the Rubik's I believe it's the Rubik's Impossible Cube, where every tile has two colors on it. So you can see there that bottom layer, as I shift the puzzle, it shifts into different colors. There are supposedly two different ways to solve this one, and I have not found either of them. So maybe at some
Wow.
point I'll figure that one out.
Wow, that's how did they come up with these things?
And there's more that I don't have in my collection, but those are a lot of the common ones and ones that I've found to be the most enjoyable.
Well, that is quite the collection. Thank you for showing that.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you'll find uh, even more interesting and crazy cubes as in your cubing journey.
Right.
Well, I think that about does it for today. Again, thank you so much, Chris, for coming on and sharing us with a little bit about the world of cubing. Um, Discovery Mountain listeners, I hope this inspires you to pick up a cube of your own. I encourage you to send in pictures and your own experiences and journeys and likes and dislikes when it comes to Rubik's Cubes or any kind of puzzle. If you go to discoverymountain.com and just go over to our contact page, you can send us a message that way as well. And I hope you've enjoyed season 32 and the saga of the puzzle craze in Discovery Mountain. Well, thank you again, Chris, for joining us, and we'll
Thanks for
see
having me.
you.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, you have a good day. And you too,
You too.
everyone. See ya.